things that could have happened to start the silly season, it's Lewis Hamilton going to the Ferrari team. Yes, this was just confirmed. I was not going to even make a video on this unless they confirmed what they just did. And I think now with this being confirmed, this will be one of the greatest driver pairings of all time. Genuinely, these two are going to be animals out there on the grid. But this is pretty funny that Lewis Hamilton decided to make this decision. They're going with a whole entire Charles Leclerc car. He actually drives more similarly to that of Carlos Sainz, funny enough. Now, obviously, Lewis has been adapting throughout his whole entire life, and I still expect him to be amazing. But also, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're killing it, and this is obviously huge news. So thank you so much to everybody that's new here. Please subscribe, like the video. It would mean the world to me. Let's get started and talk more about this amazing driver pairing that we're about to get. Now, as I said, this is such crazy news and such a big thing for Formula One in general that we actually have a driver pairing of some of the best drivers on the grid. This to me shows that Lewis Hamilton absolutely has no fear of who he's going up against. Because, as I was talking about, this will be a car that is pretty suited to Leclerc's style. That's not something that Lewis necessarily loves in a car. It's another front-ended car. Will he love that? I'm not exactly sure. But him taking the competition and risking the move from Mercedes to Ferrari, it only tells me one thing. It's either that Mercedes is not listening very much to what he's doing over there and what he's talking about, the advice from a 7-time world champion and somebody that really knows what they're talking about when it comes to development on a car, or he really just wanted to end his career in Ferrari, take the chances Ferrari. Can he get the 8th world championship at Ferrari? It would pretty much solidify him, I think, in many people's eyes as the GOAT of our sport. You can still question it now, even with 7 world championships and with all the wins that he has, people still tend to question, is this guy the greatest driver of all time? He hasn't driven for Ferrari. You gotta drive for Ferrari if you're gonna finish in the sport. Now, I don't really look at it that way. I think that him going to Ferrari is, it's literally been like a life dream to see him here because I think he's gonna look amazing in red. And honestly, any driver that goes to Ferrari reminds me of back in the day of drivers going to Ferrari and what it meant to be at that team, because they've kind of been in a little bit of a slump, I would say, since Sebastian Vettel. Now, yes, Charles Leclerc is a talent, Carlos Sainz is a huge talent, but they haven't had that star like Lewis Hamilton in a little bit. So now having Lewis there, another legend back in Ferrari, kind of like Vettel when he originally arrived, not towards the end of that season, it's just another legend to add to the making of this Ferrari team, and that added a insane driver pairing. But how is Charles Leclerc going to take this? Is this going to be something that he's, kind of indifferent about? Because we thought going into the season now, obviously for 2024, he's going to be that number 1 driver. He's been that number 1 driver while Carlos Sainz has been there. But what type of word will we have in when Lewis Hamilton comes? Who's going to be taking that role if the time gets tough? Because at some point, one of the drivers is going to have to succumb to some type of points if the other one is in a championship battle. Now, obviously, Lewis is running towards the end of his career anyways. Leclerc is still on the up, just signed another contract extension. And just crazy to think that I saw this literally about 10 hours ago before I went to bed, that they were talking about rumors. And I thought, no, there's no way that Lewis Hamilton will actually take the jump. But I guess him sitting in that car with the face the guy put on, there must have been something really bad going on with that simulator, or maybe even the cockpit. He might have sat back in and he's like, are we doing this again? Now, I don't really think that's the case, but I found it funny that everybody was talking about this guy went in the simulator for like a day or two, and he was like, all right, man, it's done. We're not doing this with the car. Not again. I'm not going through this pain. So clearly something was wrong with the car, or he really just needed to take a leap of faith for Ferrari, because this to me is a very big leap, but one that I think everybody in Formula One will love. I think even Hamilton haters are going to be like, you know what, dude, I respect it. The guy went to Ferrari, he took a big jump, leap of faith, and now he put us on with one of the best driver pairings of all time. The speed that these guys are going to perform in that car, at least we'll know that the Ferrari is being performed at the highest of levels. Now, I really hope this doesn't turn into an incident kind of like Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso when they were on a team, because that to me was such a disappointment of 2 amazing drivers together that never got the full potential out of the car. But I truly believe, and it was probably in my predictions to say, that Ferrari this year will be one of the strongest cars. Now, how they're going to perform in 2025 and when Lewis Hamilton comes, to me, I'm not exactly sure. It's going to be, as I keep saying, a leap of faith. He's really putting a lot of faith in a pretty new Ferrari team with Frederic Vasseur over there, and obviously Leclerc getting a little bit more handle on the car and talking with the team. And now with him being the new driver there, he knows how it is. He knows how it is for George coming into the team, always being talked about. Toto always saying, oh, I want to get that 8th for Lewis. Now, I mean, could they go on that one last run? I do think Mercedes is going to put in that time and be like, you know what? This is our last season together. Let's try and get that 8th. I do think that this W15 car will actually be strong, and we could see a very strong outing from Lewis, because I think he wants to go out on a shield. He wants to be like, all right, man, it's time to go out with a bang. If he gets that 8th, then Ferrari just kind of be a fun run for him, you know? Whether he wins a world championship or not, he'll be happy that he's driving in that red Scarlet car next to one of the fastest drivers on the grid, Charles Leclerc. And if he can prove himself even being faster than Charles in a team like Ferrari, I mean, what can you say about the guy? It'd be such an achievement to even just be faster, whether that be a championship winning car or not. That would be huge for him. The car setup will be a big thing that people talk about for both Lewis and Charles, and I feel like now the stands of both fan clubs for both Lewis and Charles are really going to be going at it, because they're both pretty brutal fan clubs. I mean, when I say brutal, I mean they go at each other over other drivers on the grid. Like Carlos gets roasted all the time. Lewis gets roasted all the time from even Charles Leclerc's people, depending on what happens. Typically, they've been away from each other. They never really crash into each other, so nothing really happens. But the people that are really big time invested in these two drivers, it's going to be a big stir. But I think that's what we've all been longing for in Formula One. Red Bull is missing that charm to them. I feel like Ferrari and Mercedes are just that little bit ahead in their driver pairings. Like Lewis was the better driver, but they actually had a couple, you know, things going on between him and George. Carlos and Leclerc were more of a rare occasion if they were that close in the race. They were much closer in qualifying sometimes. Sometimes, like in Monza, you would see them very close, but that was super entertaining. Now seeing a driver pairing that we know on a day-to-day basis is going to be right there, because I really do see Leclerc at the level of Lewis Hamilton. I don't think that they're far off from each other at all. And in my opinion, like I said, I keep saying greatest driver pairing of all time, one of them, and I really do believe this. I think we're so blessed to see these two, especially in a red car. But this makes me question, who will go to Mercedes? What's going to happen? Is this a transfer deal? Is Carlos potentially going to Mercedes? I'd love to see a George Russell and Carlos pairing, but I don't know if that's realistic. I think we're going to see Carlos at some point, when this driver deal is completely done, go to Audi. I think that's what's going to happen, and I think Mercedes, depending on whether Kimi Antonelli is really that good in Formula 2, take a huge leap of faith in a driver, or we could maybe see potentially an Alex Albon join the team. That's also another pretty crazy potential. I think that's kind of my two drivers that I thought had that potential of going into Mercedes. But honestly, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I could ramble on and on about this news because it's insane that it's actually happening. So I'd love to hear your guys' opinion down in the comments below. Please let me know, and make sure you're subscribed. Like, it would mean the world, and peace.